Welcome back. Welcome back to Flight of an Aviator 4. In the previous interviews, we learned about Roger, growing up, and his love for flying, and playing the bagpipes. Not just playing the bagpipes, he was invited to go to the Edinburgh's military tattoo in Scotland. To me, that is a world-class achievement. Well done, Roger. He also knew that one day he would have to stop flying. That day came, but he knew it would, so he prepared himself years earlier by taking on yet another challenge, doing a healing art called Bowen, and then eventually during his masters in this. So let's have a look.
Favourite tunes?
Well, one comes to mind straight away. There's many, but one comes to mind straight away, and it's Morag of Dunvegan. It's a slow 6/8. Morag is the name of a young lady, and she's in love with a young fellow, and she comes from the Isle of Skye, and particularly Dunvegan Castle. So the slow 6/8, it's a beautiful tune, Morag of Dunvegan. And I'll just elaborate a little bit. Our great-grandmother, Catherine MacLeod, was born on the Isle of Skye. So when we finished the tattoo, Lynn and I hired a car, and we stayed a few nights on the Isle of Skye, and we went and visited Dunvegan Castle. And it wasn't until then that I learnt that Dunvegan Castle has been occupied by Clan MacLeod for over 800 unbroken years. So in reality, our great-grandmother, Catherine MacLeod, could have very easily been in that castle. So that was pretty special. And so I've taken a shine to that tune, Morag of Dunvegan.
Yeah. Okay. In doing all that, Roger, you the playing the pipes, keeping up the practice, that would have been intense. That would have been. You keep up. You're still flying, doing that, and also you've done the Bowen therapy. Now, where did this come from? Where did that start?
Yeah, it started back when I was out in Burke. When I come back from Vietnam, I developed terrible migraines, and I'd wake up at 4 or 5 in the morning, and I'd start to vomit, and I'd run to the loo, vomit, come back, and then again every half hour, an hour, and in waves, and I was like that until the afternoon. I'd gradually recover. So I went to masseurs, I went to the doctor, and no good. Anyway, this particular masseur I was going to, she said, look, I'm learning this new modality, and it's called the Bowen technique. Do you mind if I try it on you? I said, yeah, go for it, whatever. So she did, and it's a bit of this and a bit of that. I was expecting the massage, but it wasn't. And that was that. I said, is that it? She said, yeah, that's it. And I felt a bit lightheaded walking out to the car. So I just sat there for a few minutes until everything was all right. And I went back to it 1 week apart for about 3 visits, and I did not have a migraine for months and months and months. And I was that blown away, and I felt good. I was that blown away that I thought, I've got to learn this stuff because it's so bloody powerful, so good. So I went away and learnt it. Long story short.
You're flying and starting. Yeah. So whereabouts was this?
This is out in Burke. And the problem was, if I developed a migraine and I had to go flying, I'd spew on the bloody floor of the aeroplane. And my markers would be down at the paddock waiting for me to turn up. So I'd have to get my act together and get down there. I'd have a spew at the airstrip and then go down. So anyway, so that was happening then, and I went away and learned it over a period of time. And I started in 1999, and I still do Bowens. I've done hundreds and hundreds, and it's a marvellous modality. Actually, Lynn lines up for her Bowen every now and again. I said, well, put your name in the book. You're on tomorrow at 3 o'clock, sort of thing, because it helps Lynn. She's got issues. And an issue she did have, she fell on the bottom very hard onto concrete one time and injured her coccyx. the base of the spine, and she was in all sorts of pain. So we're living in Jerilderie then, and so we came across and visited a surgeon in Aubrey, and he said he would cut the coccyx off. I was horrified. I said, well, what do you do with the nerves? He said, oh, we just tuck them up underneath. I said, no. So I did Bowen on Lynn. I did the coccyx procedure, and then the advanced coccyx procedure, and she come good over a period of months. So I've got a lot of stories. I won't go into them.
I do know you've done some Bowen on some pilots.
Yeah, I have.
Done on a Earl of.
Oh yes.
Yeah, Earl of.
Yeah, he's an Earl.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So and they're sort of people of. He was a no bullshit sort of person. If you stuff up, you're not getting another shot.
Yes, here's an Englishman, and he had a heart bypass with veins out of his legs. Went down to Melbourne. This is when we were living in Jerilderie. They took veins out of his legs for the bypass of the heart. Anyway, he's back in Jerilderie recovering, and he developed these terribly bloody aching pains in the legs because his circulation was terrible because they took the bloody veins out. I mean, you know. So anyway, he came around and he said, Roger, what can you do? I said, well, I can give you some Bowen on the legs. So I did. Anyway, he got home and he rang me that night. He said, absolutely wonderful, wonderful. So he would come around for a Bowen every 5 or 6 weeks. Yeah. He sent his son around to me. He hurt himself playing cricket or something. So, and so I've done many hundreds, and people would come from far and wide, as the saying is. Jerilderie, local people, Narandra, Tokemwell, Deniliquin, and when we shifted here, and I was doing Bowen here, those people would come over here, yeah. And now and again there'd be a car full of shearers would turn up because they're aching and all that. Yeah. So anyway, it continued on.
So your studies on just for your Bowen, but you did a master's degree?
Yeah, there's different stages, of course, and you work your way through different procedures and different levels. And I obtained my diploma, certificate 4, diploma, and then my master's. Yeah,
that's incredible. Yeah, and I know you've said pilots waiting to be called in. And they feel a bit stiff and sore. And
out on the job.
Yeah, no names.
Eh? No names. Well,
one particular.
I flew an aircraft over to the west and went crop spraying for a bloke over there. Scott's his name. And anyway, at the end of the season, he invited me back to his place in Perth, and I gave some members of his family a Bowen, and they reckon it was great. But anyway, long story short, I flew left the aircraft at Moree because I hired a Moree aircraft, and flew the 182 down to Jerilderie. Anyway, the next day the phone goes and it's an old mate of mine up at Gunnedah, and he wanted me to go up there if I could go firebombing. So I did. And anyway, his wife was quite not very well, and I had a chat to her. I said, look, I can give you some lymphatic drainage. Would you like that? And she said, oh, yes, please. So I did, and she had a marvellous result. But anyway, up on the airstrip, while we're waiting to be tasked somewhere else, we're waiting for the blue smoke to lift. I gave 1 or 2 of my fellow pilots some Bowen, just spread a towel out on the grass and give them Bowens, and blokes are looking around the side of the tent saying, what's he doing? What's he doing? Anyway, and they got a bit of a smirk on their face anyway, and until the bloke stands up and says, oh, geez, that's good. And then they say, well, actually, I've got an aching shoulder and an aching hip. Can you give me a Bowen? So anyway, it goes on.
Yeah. So you was doing the pipes, you was doing the Bowen, still being a father. So after you've had enough flying and you realise enough's enough and you want to enjoy life a bit more, and you continue on with your Bowen, and you still practice some Bowen today?
Yes, yes, still active with Bowen. I thought I'd retire, but my clients haven't let me. So, but anyway, that's okay. But when I retired from flying, I went into Bowen full time, and I had a Bowen room built specially on our house in Jerilderie. So I was doing. I'd book in five Bowens a day, and that was enough for me because you got to concentrate all the time, and it's quite tiring. I lost my medical with my commercial flying as a result of my Vietnam service, and so I had to move on. And Bowen filled that void just right. So it was about that time that I studied for my masters, obtained it, and so I was doing as I said, up to 5 a day, and that was 5 days a week. I had the weekends off. Yeah.
God, stroke, yeah. Just off the cuff here, what's your favourite alcoholic drink?
Oh, wow, that's a big question. I really enjoy a Bailey's Irish Cream that I make. Whiskey, Cab Sav, yeah, to name a few.
Non-alcoholic drink?
Oh, water. Don't know, you got me there.
Yeah. What about a meal? What sort of...
I
Are
love.
you a meat eater? Or?
I love my meat.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I also love seafood.
Yeah.
Seafood is and a steak is a close second. Yeah,
it does, yeah. So, if you go back and talk to your younger self, what sort of thing would you say to yourself if you can go back to when you was 19?
Yeah, well,
or to anybody else?
Yeah, to anyone else. It was easy for me because I knew from that day in Penola when I was a 8-year-old boy where I wanted to go with aviation. I wasn't too sure where, how, or whatever. But for any young fella starting out, not sure what they'll do, have a close think of what you want to do, what you'd like to do, and go for it. Don't hold back. Be prepared to work hard for it. And just because you leave school, don't think that's the end of your exams because it will not be. So I found out.
Hope they will take away from this. I think you might have already said it, but go again if you like.
Follow your dreams. If something grabs you, go for it. And don't expect it to be an easy road because nothing worthwhile is easy. But if you do what you want to do, it can be very fulfilling. I've had a pretty good run. Yeah.
And is there got any memorable moments back through, either flying?
Quite a few.
There's obviously the wedding day. You'd say that anyway. A couple of fantastic kids there. Yeah. So the pipes, playing at the Edinburgh Military Tattoo in Scotland. That's a buzz for me, just as a brother. Yeah. I like the pipes as well. Yeah. I started playing them, but never finished it. But
you did? I didn't know.
Yeah,
that.
I started on the Chanter when I was back in the 1027 Battalion.
All right. Oh, did you?
Yeah. Started with. I've forgotten his bloody name. I was just talking the other day. But anyway, I forgot what I was going to go to. That's typical of me.
Well, I've tutored pipers. I've had, I think I counted 10 here at different times. And I was tutoring 2 pipers for the 2020 tattoo. We're all set to go when COVID come in, so that was cancelled, worldwide cancelled. Yeah. But really, a big slice of my career has been flying at Burke. 16 odd years, I think it worked out.
Thank you for watching The Flight of an Aviator, where Roger talks of his life in brief. If you wish to read his memoirs in a lot more detail, you can email him on rogerlynbuck@bigpond.com, that's one word. In this video, Roger continues talking of a few short stories, little things that happened to him in flying, some of the small mishaps. And Dick Smith even gives him a call. Have a listen. It's very interesting.
Burke to flying from Dubbo to Burke one night. I just dropped off some passengers and I was up at 18,000 feet or something, and I became aware that I was starting to show signs of hypoxia.
Oh, it's yep.
Starvation of oxygen to the brain, and I think it's the decompression chamber course at Point Cook years before. I think it saved my life because I became aware that I wasn't functioning too well mentally and physically, and so I did a crash dive down to about 8,000 feet because the oxygen system had stopped working. And
So what, you 18,000 down to 8?
dropped down 10,000 feet.
You had passengers on board?
No, I dropped them off.
I've just dropped them
Dropped
off.
them off at Dubbo, and I was on my way back to Burke.
You
Yeah.
would go, they would have been panicking. That's a fair old dive.
Yeah, it is. It was at night, but I could see bluing of the fingertips. I felt, well, mentally, it's a bit like having too much to drink. You think, geez, I'm all right, but I'm not all right, you know. And if you can channel your thoughts and think, geez, I better do something about this, I'm not going too well, then you've got to do something about it. I was on my own.
Yeah.
But a few incidents, like I was an aircraft engineer and a commercial pilot, so I had my foot in both camps, and I was fortunate enough in that regard, because one night I was doing a charter from Narromine to Burke. It was a night charter. I had my passengers on board, and we'd just taken off. The sun was setting, a little bit of residual daylight, on climbs, set heading, and all of a sudden all the power went off. No electricity and no lights inside or outside, no radios, no nav aids or anything. And so I reached down, grabbed my torch. I always had my torch handy for night flying, and shined it on the artificial horizon. As I was saying, that's the master instrument. You've got to believe that. And did a turn back towards Narromine, and I'm thinking, well, maybe the lights are still on, because I had switched them on via the VHF radio, because they will stay on for half an hour, whatever the timing is. And I'm thinking there may be just enough residual light for me to land. If not, I'd continue on to Dubbo, where I knew the lights were on all night. Anyway, a few minutes had passed, and I thought, well, I'll do a troubleshoot of the instruments. And I had a look at all the circuit breakers. They were all in, except the master circuit breaker. It was out. I thought, So I put all the circuit breakers out that I didn't need for the flight to Burke.
Yeah.
Very gingerly pushed the main circuit breaker in, and it stayed in. Thank goodness, because I'd let it cool down for a few minutes. I thought, well, it should be cool enough. Hopefully it'll stay, and it did. So I turned around and resumed my climb and heading to Burke. Anyway, just then, the bloke said, I feel like a smoke. I want to have a smoke. I said, don't you light up cigarettes. Anyway, he didn't. So 2 hours later, we arrived back out in Burke, and I again pulled circuit breakers that I didn't want, and turned the landing lights on, and they stayed on. The one thing up my sleeve, I'd had a few thousand hours of night flying, night spraying up my sleeve, so that helped in the grand scheme of things. But other times, back in when I was flying for Field Air, living in Benalla, and the Field Air was based in Ballarat, I arrived back at Ballarat to pick up my aircraft to fly it up to Finley to continue on with the rice season. About 5 o'clock, the engineers were knocking off. Anyway, got into the aircraft. It's a radial air tractor, 500 horsepower radial engine. Anyway, doing the controls full, free and correct. And I thought, that's funny, the elevators don't feel right. So I called the chief engineer over, and I said, look, something's going on with the elevators, can you check them out? So he pulled the side panel off and he had a look. And he said, full back, yeah. Full forward, yeah. He said, nothing wrong with it. They're hitting the stops, full aft, full forward. I said, well, something's not right. He said, you're imagining things, get going. And anyway, against my better judgment, the commercial pressures are always there. And I nearly said, well, no, you can stick it. But the commercial pressures, you tend to work around those problems. So anyway, I took off, uneventful trip up to Findlay. What's an hour and a half flight or something. Landed there and taxied up to the hangar because I knew there was an engineer there. And I explained my situation to him and I said, can you have a close look? He said, yeah.
So obviously it's still playing on your mind.
Oh yeah, shit yeah.
Yeah.
And anyway, so he took the side panel off and he spotted it straight away. The connecting rod from the elevators to a bell crank was in the incorrect position. It should have been there, not there. And so he repositioned it and job was right. So so being a ginger beer, as we call ourselves, engineers, and another time it was in the Cherokee 6 and I had an aircraft full of passengers and taxied out to the holding point. Once again, controls full free and correct, and the ailerons wouldn't go properly. Bugger. So I taxied back, got rid of the passengers, and in the back of my mind I knew there was a cable leading out the wing to a chain that went around a cog to the aileron. So I pulled the panel off, and here's a screwdriver stuck in the teeth of the bloody gear. And so I pulled it out and had a look. And the engineer's initials were on the blade of the screwdriver. So I rang him up and gave him a serve. I said that could have easily been bloody fatal if it had happened in the air as it was rolling around. And there's incidents like that. Another time I had to fly the thrush from Burke to Kidal to have a 100 hourly. I arrived back there fairly early in the morning and they had all day to do the 100 hourly. And so I had to be out in Burke by 6 the next morning. So I arrived out at Kidal Airport at 3 a.m, ready for a 3-hour flight back out to Burke, ready for this spray job. Anyway, once again, going through, I moved the throttle in and out, and I thought, that doesn't feel right.
Throttle. Yeah.
And so I made a phone call, and then another phone call, and got the engineer out. And he wasn't a very happy chappy, but if he'd done the right job first time, he wouldn't be there at 3 o'clock in the morning, or 3:30. And anyway, what he'd done, it put the throttle linkage around the wrong way, and it was binding. Anyway, he fixed that up, and away I went. So, you know, there's situations like that, you know, and passengers. I did a charter from Burke to Narrabri, and nearing Narrabri, the cloud base was pretty low, so I got my NDB instrument played out to do an NDB letdown on instruments. And so I did the approach and broke out of cloud just at the minimum, so you're not allowed to go any lower than that. If you're not visual, you've got to go around again or go somewhere else. Anyway, I broke out of cloud, and my passenger, he says, I want to go to Weewar. Oh, not Narrabri? No, Weewar. All right, so passengers can be a bit of an issue. So I replanned and went to Weewar underneath the cloud because there's no nav aid at Weewar. And yeah, issues like that. Dick Smith, yeah, he rang up one day, or one night it was, Roger Buck, yeah? He said, I've just finished reading your memoirs twice. I said, oh. Yeah.
Didn't understand him the first time.
Twice. I said, Dick Smith. I said, you're my hero. I said, he said, oh, God, come on. I said, I put you up there with Frank Hurley and a few of those others. Yeah, he's marvellous. And so anyway, he said, Roger, he said, I want you to publish it. I said, oh, Dick, I said, it's not for publication. It's for family and friends. And he said, well, he said, I want you to send it to the National Archives in Canberra. Oh, righto. So I did, with a covering letter. And so that was quite good. I've had a talk with Dick Smith on a couple of other occasions. Actually, one that comes to mind straight away, Lynn and I were in Sydney, and it happened to be Anzac Day. So Lynn and I, we marched down the street in the street parade in Anzac in Sydney, but it was pouring with rain. So we were sharing this little skimpy umbrella, not that it kept any rain off. We were marching along in the rain, and anyway, here's Dick Smith off to the side, also standing in the rain, and he had this big sign.
Thank you. Yeah, that's he's a he's a marvel bloke.
He is. He's pretty switched on. Very astute. Yeah. So that was that. That's a photo. I don't know whether you can see. That's a photo of the RSL Newcastle RSL pipe band which gets Sandra playing for them now. Yeah.
I'll get some photos of that too.
Yeah.
Oh, then that's. Just bring that around there. Okay, do that again.
Yeah.
Geez, that's getting hot. I think that's about right. So that's it, jet setters. That's the flight of an aviator, or the memoirs of an aviator, Roger Buck. Yeah, so I hope you've enjoyed it. If you want to see anything or read anything more, there is books out there about him. And if you, I'll just get this one up here. Jesus Christ, that doesn't look like. You could have his son there, Aaron, my godfather. And that's a duster.
That's a gas turbine thrush.
Okay, yeah.
Hazel Air Services.
Yeah.
That's out in Burke.
God.
Yeah. But that tells the story.
Thank you, jet setters. We'll see you on the flip side. Thanks, guys. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Tell a friend. See this, send it off to people.
I didn't tell you about learning to fly under power lines at night. Anyway.